Oak Hill Cemetery in February of 1862 is crowded with people who refuse to admit they've died. They linger among the vintage obelisks and hillside paths, waiting for a recovery that will never come. This collective delusion is the rule of the grounds. The inhabitants refer to their coffins as sick boxes and view their spectral state as a temporary illness, maintaining a desperate hope that they will soon wake up and return to their former lives. Three primary narrators lead us through this realm: Hans Vollmann, who is fixated on his unconsummated marriage; Roger Bevins III, who mourns the sensory beauty of the world he left; and the Reverend Everly Thomas, who is paralyzed by a terrifying vision of what awaits him in the next life. Each spirit anchors itself to the soil with these specific traumas. By obsessing over their unfinished business, they transform the cemetery into a landscape of frozen attachments, a place where the fear of the final ending outweighs the misery of staying trapped. This environment is disrupted by the arrival of young Willie Lincoln. He died of typhoid fever in a White House, gripped by the dual pressures of a lavish state reception and the mounting casualties of the Civil War. The Bardo is dangerous for children. Lingering too long hardens their forms into agonizing geometric shells called carapaces. Willie moves towards this transformation by refusing to transition. He remains in his sick box, certain his father is coming back to save him. Willie's refusal to leave is driven by an unwavering loyalty. He stays because he believes his father is coming back, unaware that this very hope is the mechanism that will eventually seal his spiritual cage. Driven by a grief that verges on madness, President Lincoln returns to the crypt in the middle of the night. He does something the ghosts have never seen a living visitor do. He opens the coffin, lifts his son's body, and holds it. To the boy's spirit, this physical contact is the ultimate confirmation. Feeling his father's embrace, Willie decides that he was right to wait, and he resolves to stay in the Bardo indefinitely. The tragedy deepens with every moment Lincoln stays. The president's attempt to find comfort in his son's body only serves to anchor Willie more firmly to a realm that will eventually consume him. The ghosts watching from the shadows realize they are witnessing a slow-motion disaster. Unless Lincoln is forced to leave the graveyard tonight, Willie will never have the chance to move on. Vollmann, Bevins, and Thomas decide on a desperate plan. They will attempt to occupy the president's mind, hoping to project enough collective influence to drive him away from the crypt. In a desperate surge, the ghosts hurl their spiritual forms into Lincoln's physical space, forcefully merging their consciousness with his. But the occupation works both ways. As they enter Lincoln's mind, the ghosts are suddenly overwhelmed by the scale of the president's own thoughts. They find themselves carrying the same weight Lincoln does, a personal agony for his son that is inseparable from his responsibility for the thousands dying on the battlefields. Lincoln begins to view his own sorrow as part of a wider landscape. He sees his grief reflected in the letters of every mourning parent in the country, recognizing that his suffering is just one thread in a much larger collective pain. This exposure to Lincoln's massive, unselfish grief begins to erode the ghost's own denial. Their individual obsessions feel small when held against a man who is grieving for an entire nation. This perspective on universal suffering changes how Lincoln views his own duty. He recognizes that he cannot remain paralyzed in a graveyard when he has a country to lead. Lincoln stands up and prepares to return to the world. He makes the decision to walk out of the crypt and into the night, accepting that his work lies with the living. Watching his father walk away and lock the door behind him, Willie finally faces the reality the other ghosts have spent years avoiding. He understands that the life he was waiting for is over. By sacrificing his own desire to stay near his son, Lincoln provides the clarity Willie needs to let go. The president's departure is the final act that allows the boy's soul to be free. Willie accepts his death and vanishes. His unlived future flashes before him in a single instant before he disappears into the explosive phenomenon known as matter-light blooming. The boy's transition triggers a change in the spirits who witnessed it. After feeling Lincoln's empathy and seeing Willie's courage, the illusion of the sick boxes finally collapses. Vollmann, Bevins, and Thomas acknowledge their own ends. They release their hold on Oak Hill and fade from the Bardo, following the boy into whatever lies beyond. Lincoln rides forward into the night, leaving the dead to their rest. By accepting the loss, he is finally able to tend to the living,